Welcome to Podcast for Fun. This is the show where we dive into the passion, the process, and the journeys of creative storytellers as they bring their stories to life. I'm your host, Sophia, and today we are joined by a talented cartoonist, Seraji. Thank you so much for being here, Seraji.
Thanks for having me, Sophia. I'm looking forward to talking.
Yeah, that's why we're here. So, let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Sure. So I am a Iranian-Canadian comic artist, cartoonist, and illustrator. Right now, I'm working on my independent comic series, Fourth Dimensional. It's like this urban sci-fi adventure that's being published through Cosmic Line Productions. And I am working on part three of the current story arc, Seal Your Heart. Other than that, I've done work for DC Comics on one of their DC Go titles, Nothing But Nightwing, and I've done some cover stuff for Image Comics on the series Kaya.
Oh wow, you were for Image Comics too. That's crazy. So how did you start how did you get that job in DC?
So for the DC one, I had just wrapped up part two of Fourth Dimensional Sweetheart, which is the latest issue. It's the latest one released.
Hmm.
I finished it back around September, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to branch out here and start hustling a little bit because when you're in the comic making grind, which I worked on that issue over the entire summer, you're
Hmm.
really in it, head down every day. You're like, okay, I can just focus my energy into this and kind of let like you set an alarm clock for the rest of life, but when you
Yeah.
wrap up an issue, you're like, oh my God, what do I do now? Either I start that grind again for the third issue
Yeah.
and just back into that daily grind from the thumbnails to the pencils, inks, colors, etc. Or I need to like look around, try and find some other work. So what I started doing was I'd been mostly focusing on Instagram prior to that in terms of like social media, trying to self promote and everything. But I started doing stuff on Twitter, and I found that people were like liking some of the stuff I was doing. So I started posting some fan art things there because I think, you probably know as well, fan art, people who, when they recognize the characters, they'll respond to it more and,
Yeah.
they could become a fan of your work through that. So I posted some fan art pieces I was doing for the new DC Absolute line. So I did one
Hmm.
for Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and Absolute Superman. And the Absolute Wonder Woman piece I did actually got seen by a writer, and he reached out to me, Patrick R. Young, and he
Hmm.
reached out and said, "Hey, comic writer here. I love your work. I'd love to see some of your samples or whatever." So I went and scoped out his bio and everything. I saw he was a DC writer. I'm like, okay, oh sick. This isn't like some bot or whatever. This is
Yeah.
actually a proper creator. So I excitedly sent him um, my website link with some of my portfolio stuff, and then also a PDF of the issue I just finished. And he was stoked about that, and we were just going back and forth a little bit. He saw that I'm Vancouver based through like I just have that in my bio, and he was actually in Vancouver as well because him and his partner work in the film industry, so they're back between Vancouver and LA.
Hmm.
So we got to meet up for coffee and we spoke and everything, and yeah, from there, I think he just had me in his mind, and he presented an opportunity for to work on as a fill-in artist for a couple chapters, a couple episodes of the Nightwing series.
Oh my God. The beauty of social media, that's awesome.
Well, it really worked out like that. It's so much of this is about luck, but I think
Mhm.
it's also about putting yourself in as many positions as possible to get lucky, if that makes sense. Like so many factors there. I mean, first he had to just see the fan art, and then he had to like he reached out and he was coincidentally in Vancouver. And I think he was heading back to LA like the day after we met up for coffee. So all these things just sort of worked out in the timing of like him having started this new series with DC that wasn't announced yet or anything.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, all these things kind of fell into place and it worked out really nicely.
What would you say were like the biggest differences when it came to working on your own stuff and like collaborating with like a professional DC writer?
That's a good question. So this was actually my first like freelance gig doing something that wasn't just fully done by myself, which was pretty cool that for myself that it was for DC. Because when I started this sort of like seriously pursuing being a comic artist,
Hmm.
DC was the thing I had in mind. And I think as I started doing it and working on my own stuff, I realized, okay, no, this is what I ultimately want to do is focus on my own things. But yeah, getting that DC gig, I was like, this is incredible. And it like really tapped back to like that initial drive to do this. But the main difference is, I mean, number one, for fourth dimensional, I do everything myself. So I write it, draw it, everything's up to me. I'll be like in the middle of coloring it and reading back at the script and like, oh man, I could like tweak this dialogue there. So the whole process is much more organic and I'm much more involved in everything all throughout up until it's sent off to the printer.
Yeah.
With the DC gig, instantly, you receive a script from Patrick, and I read through that, and that has all the story as like little descriptions for each panel and everything. And I it's my prerogative to tweak those bits, add a panel here, combine two panels there as I see fit, and obviously, the editors have to approve that. And the other bit is that you have editors looking at the series. You're going
Yeah.
back and forth in emails. They have to approve everything. They'll provide you with critiques or changes as needed. Um, but yeah, it's much more of like you're working with a team, and it feels kind of good because you're like, okay, first off, I don't need to stress about everything. This is my job. This is my job in this sort of process here.
Yeah.
But also, you're in touch with other people. You're communicating with other people. Um, it's not a solitary work as working on your own project is.
Hmm. Do you feel like, I mean, obviously your creativity was more constrained when it came to working for someone else, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can't just have anything happen. You got to follow the script, and you got to do things that will be approved with these characters. So, yeah,
Would you say that, do you prefer working with other people or do you prefer writing your own thing?
that's tough. I think like if I had to pick one, I would pick working by myself because there's something so satisfying about fully creating your own story. It's one of the things I love about comics because comics they're the only visual storytelling medium where it can be one person creating the entire story themselves. No
Yeah.
other visual storytelling medium has that potential. So if someone reads one of my books, like Fourth Dimensional, they're getting something like it's directly my singular voice to the reader, like a one-to-one interaction.
Yeah.
Whereas movies, film, and collaborative works on comics, it's a team's vision. It's like, and especially if you're working for a Marvel or DC, it's got to be faithful to those characters and to that universe.
Mm-hmm. You said you like DC, right? Like that was like your idea when you first were writing comics. So did you
Yeah.
read a lot of DC comics growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Um, I think when I read the New 52 Batman run by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, that was the one where I was like, I want to draw Batman comics. Obviously from when I was a kid, I was watching like Batman cartoons and the movies and everything. That was the first comic series where I read that and was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do.
What of it made you go like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cool."
I mean, at that point when I'm, 12 years old or whatever I was, it's
Yeah.
just Batman is awesome. I love drawing, and these drawings are awesome. I want to draw as good as this, and I want to draw Batman doing things that are as cool as this.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. So it definitely was just I love drawing. I love superheroes. I love comics. This is like that perfect sort of match. But yeah, so it was pretty cool to kind of be able to like check that off.
So you always knew like you wanted to be a comic creator?
Definitely. Uh, the first comic I ever read was Calvin and Hobbes,
Hmm.
and the second was Bone. So those were pretty like two amazing comics to start off with, and I feel like a lot of people my age, probably started with similar titles.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those ones I just knew I'm like I want to be a cartoonist. I want to create comics and everything, and that sort of just stayed at the back of my head the whole time. And when I was 19, I decided, okay, yeah, I want to do this. If I'm going to school or pursuing any sort of field
Yeah.
that I want to succeed in and will have competition, I'd rather it be this because that way I know I will always give 100% of like my passion and dedication to it. And I feel I
Hmm.
have.
So you went to school for comics?
So originally I was actually in sciences, and that's when after uh, my first year doing that, I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay, no, the only thing I'd want to do here is like go to med school, and I don't stand a chance. But if I do comics, at least I stand somewhat of a chance because I'll put in the work to improve to that point necessary. Um, from there, I found my way to the Idea School of Design, which is a
Hmm.
design and illustration program at Capilano University, and that was really great because it allowed me to hone my skills and have that sort of strong commercial art focus. Make sure, okay, when I leave this program, I'm not going to have my hands up in the air. What do I do? I'll
Hmm.
know kind of what to expect, and I'll have the skills required to do commercial work.
So what are the things that you were like you learned that you still use?
Right. So I think the biggest thing, which would have been happening anyways, is my work improved a ton. Like just my illustration abilities and storytelling abilities improved a ton from when I entered the program to when I exited.
Mm.
And I would have been putting in those hours anyways, but being in the program just gave me sort of uh like a funnel to focus that energy and make sure I was getting it done.
Hmm.
And the other bits were just honing my design skills. I'd just been drawing some comics and stuff, so I hadn't, really learned, oh, how do I like design a book? How do I design like an advertisement? How do I do this and that? And learning all these different design skills for completely other things, for branding, for advertising. It's useful skills to have in mind and to apply to this. Um, and yeah, yeah, I think that answered your question. I'm not sure.
What's an example of like a design thing you learned that you use in like, let's say like your comic book covers?
Okay, yeah. Um, just making uh an image that sells your work. The I think the difference between the cover of a comic and the inside of a comic, and I'm stealing this from Jeff Smith, I believe, is that the inside of a comic is art. The cover of a comic is commercial. One needs to be this beautiful thing that people read and experience and can connect with, and one needs to sell that idea.
Hmm.
So having that in mind, having like um I think maybe a good example is with the first trade paperback. I had this idea of um, when you see this from afar, you'll see the character's head in profile here, real large.
Yeah.
Then when people like in a store will walk up closer to it, then they get to see all the characters inside, like held inside the head.
That's
So
so sick, bro.
kind of ideas like that, where considering how are people going to see this, how are they going to interact with it, making sure everything's legible, making sure
Hmm.
your logo is neat and clean, and people can read it from afar.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, yeah, ideas like that.
So if you always knew you wanted to be a comic writer, why did you
Mhm.
take science? I'm just curious. Like,
Well, I went to a pretty academically focused school,
hmm.
um, and I just kind of had it hammered into me that, hey, you know, comics are competitive and everything, and like having a sure career path will be better for you. And at a certain point, um, when I was, I don't know, 13 or so, maybe younger, maybe older, I
Hmm.
was like, okay, this has got to be like comics can be like a hobby or something. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. It's going to be too hard or whatever. I'm really glad that uh, I learned better, I guess, that, okay, no, I can do this.
So what pulled you out of that mindset?
I just being in that program at in sciences, and I was so stressed working on things. I had thought like I'd convinced myself, oh, I'll be able to like do this and draw at the side on the side and like try and build that up. but it like months had gone by. I hadn't drawn a single thing,
Mm.
and I really wasn't feeling it. I was super stressed out, just didn't know what I wanted to do. And my buddy, who I was rooming with, he's one of my best friends. Uh, he looked at me so stressed out working on like this biology lab report, and he's like, "Listen, uh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? You clearly like there's something greater that you want. You should be pursuing that." And he said, uh, "In 10 years, if you aren't a comic artist, like a professional comic artist, I'm going to kick your ass." So I think that was kind of a nice wake up call and made me realize myself that okay, no, I should be doing this. There's a better path, I think.
That's great. Because true, I feel like when you're young, you have the a bit of a freedom, and we kind of have the privilege to be able to do test the things, you know? It's like I feel like people immediately go onto the safe whatever what they consider the safe route first without even
Hmm.
trying the one they actually want to accomplish in the first place, if that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah. Hmm.
And also, oh yeah.
No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, of course it's hard because everybody wants to do it, right? Like, what's the point?
Hmm.
There's no greatness or there's no accomplishment if it isn't a hard thing to acquire.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I think there is something to be said that you hear, oh yeah, there's so many artists, such a competitive field. And I think it's amazing that there's so many artists that art is like so many people are pursuing that. Um, but not everyone is in it for the long haul, if that makes sense. And like a lot of people will start it and be like, okay, no, this is something I want to keep as a hobby. This is something that like I love creating and everything, but I couldn't do it all day, every day. You know, sitting there, it becoming a job would ruin it for me. That's what a lot of
Yeah.
people, that's like a sentiment a lot of people have. And that's totally fine, you know. It's art making, so it's free and it's whatever you choose it to be. But for me, I never had that. I was like,
Mm.
I will happily sit here 10, 14 hours a day and just work on my stuff. It being this job, this professional thing, I think only motivates me more. And I get really stoked every time I get something done and I can like share that with people and kind of see how people are responding to it.
I agree with you, man. 100%. But I have heard other people. I remember I had like an art teacher who was telling me that she used to love drawing, but she doesn't do it anymore because it became a career. And I never
Yeah.
understood that sentiment because I was like, bro, I want to do this every day. Why would you be upset that you have to draw more? That's amazing, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's different strokes. So,
Did
yeah.
you go in with like a plan or did you kind of just like figure it out as you tried?
But I loosely had a plan. I knew that in the current sort of comics industry,
Mhm.
it's less about going around to editors and shopping your portfolio. That still exists,
Yeah.
but I think much more with the advent of the internet and all this and social media, um, editors are looking online and they want to see if you have the metal. So they look and if you make a good comic that people are responding to and they see that. Uh, they will reach out then,
Mhm.
they want to see that you can do it. So for me, I knew that, okay, I gotta create my own comics. I don't need to worry about like making Daredevil sample pages, I gotta make my own characters, my own story. And that's two birds with one stone because not only are you making comics that you can share with people and people can buy and read and everything, and you're, creatively fulfilling yourself, but also uh, people will see that, and industry people will take take uh, will take hint of that, acknowledge that,
Yeah,
and
yeah. No, no, that's a good way of explaining it. So did you like immediately quit science and just completely focus on comics, or did you like have to like transition a little bit?
I pretty much finished my first year. I knew at like the halfway point that I was going to be switching, and yeah, after that, I guess it was a transition in that I started working on like portfolio pieces when I was applying to the other schools, so making sure I had the strongest pieces possible to present
Mm.
myself. Um, but aside from that, no, it was from like one year science. I was in sciences. The next, I was pursuing. art and illustration.
So when did you start your series?
So fourth dimensional, actually my first year in sciences, uh, one day I drew the main character Mon, and I didn't have anything like it was just kind of like a sketch in a sketchbook.
Yeah.
And it was the first thing I had drawn in the longest time. So the character, like because of that, it really like stuck to me, and also the fact that I didn't draw like Batman or whatever. I drew
Yeah.
this random character, and I didn't know anything about him. But for some reason, the drawing really stuck out to me. I can actually show you. I printed it in the back of the first volume. That's the very first drawing. It's pretty
Oh.
crappy, but uh, at the point where I was then, it was like the best thing I'd drawn, and I was like, man, there's something about this character, and from there, I slowly started developing the character, the story in my head,
Mm.
um, and yeah, started creating pages.
And that's it? So you just started like working on it seriously?
For a long time, I was keeping it just to like written, Google Docs, writing like stuff about the character, stuff about the world and everything. Do like
Yeah.
getting caught in a bit of that world building trap where you know you get really caught in just expanding details that you wouldn't even see in the comics for a while.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I had this idea that, oh, I need to be a good enough artist before I start drawing comics. And then I realized, no, I will become a better artist through drawing the comics. So yeah, I started just creating the story from there around 2021. Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, started started telling the story.
So 2021, is that after science, after you studied science, or
Yeah. Yeah.
so after
That
you
was in
studied science and you like went into your new school, you started being like, I'm gonna seriously start making this comic.
yeah. And I was working on that between assignments and everything.
Oh my God, how did you like manage your time?
Uh just late nights, long hours.
Did you have to like put yourself like deadlines? Because I feel it's really hard to motivate myself sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely something you have to learn. And being in this program helped with that because, it gives you some structure, it gives you deadlines, and it gives you kind of hours of the day that you can work through. You're like, okay, I have class for these hours, so I'm presented with these hours now that I can
Mm-hmm.
work on my comics. Um, as soon as you exit school, at whatever point you do, you're gonna have to learn. You're like, okay, I have as a freelancer, I have the entire day, the entire week to structure how I want. So I got to make sure I'm getting work done. I'm not stalling, but I'm also not burning myself out by working, a million hours, a million days in a row, no break. You got to make sure you're like giving yourself the time so you can stay as productive.
So do you like draw and write the story like at the same time, or did you write a script first and then you went into the drawing?
I think what you might hear from a lot of cartoonists is that they do sort of have this organic flow where they write and draw at the same time. For me, it's got to be very separate. It's completely different mindset of writing versus drawing. So when I'm writing, I gotta like sit down, full silence, and just focus.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm drawing, when you're like reaching the final stage of the line work, you can have like a video on in the background or music or whatever, and just sort of get into the flow of things. But yeah, and I gotta work from a script, and because I'm working on for my own script, I can keep things looser. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to like describe things as fully because I know like from like a little phrase, I'll understand. I'll remember like what I had in mind, be able to draw from that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so draw like write out a loose script with all the dialogue and everything, and then start with the thumbnails from there.
So when you were writing, do you like ever take any classes for writing?
No, not really. Maybe I should have, but writing it's one of those things. It was actually just uh like just a necessary piece of the puzzle. If you're
Yeah.
creating your own comics and you want to just like get to it, you need to write it yourself because otherwise you gotta spend some time finding a writer, finding someone that you can work well with, and yeah, it just complicates things, and um yeah, so I started just telling my own story, and because I'd created the character, I wanted to tell the story myself. So I just
Mm,
started writing, and I think for me, it helped to start simple because I
mm,
had created like this crazy like world and all planned out all these things for the future. But in both my, I knew that in both my writing skills and my drawing skills, I wouldn't be able to do justice to those greater concepts. So I'm like, okay, let's start simple, and I think it helps the story. Often compare Fourth Dimensional to in its progression to stories like Lord of the Rings or Bone or Dragon Ball, where it starts like much smaller scale, very character focused, more comedic and everything. And
yeah.
as the story progresses, the scale grows, the characters get more complex, and yeah, the tone will might shift less comedy and more into like the serious sort of like action adventure side. Uh, and yeah, I think that came from both just my improvement and being able to like get closer to my greater ideas for the story.
I kind of have like a fun question.
Okay, yeah.
So, if you were to say like, "Oh, I want to make a story like this," that's like a
Mm-hmm.
famous one that already exists, what would it
Yeah.
be?
Can it be a story that's already like a comic?
Yes.
Okay. Um, I would love to do a Wonder Woman comic. I think
Why?
Wonder Woman is just so amazing, hugely underrated character. And I think people often talk about it and like, oh, how like because Wonder Woman is part of the DC Trinity along with Superman and Batman, but she's like the only one who has uh like one ongoing title in like their mainline universe, you know.
Mm.
I think now, I mean, if you count the absolute one, you got two, but yeah, it's a character I think is hugely underrated, shockingly so, and has so much potential. I think, and I think it would just take someone coming in with a really fun idea to like do something really awesome with it, with the character, with her mythos. Because I think there's so much potential there to do something really awesome.
What do you mean underrated?
Just that people are aware of like, okay, Batman. I understand like kind of like Gotham City, the Joker, Commissioner
Mm.
Gordon, all these things. They're much more aware of like your casual person is much more aware of Batman's world. Superman, you're like, okay, yeah, the Daily Planet's the building with the big globe on it. Lois Lane, Lex Luthor. You might know
Yeah.
like some of the villains like Brainiac and whatnot. Um, but with Wonder Woman, I think it's just less so, and I think they're the character is presented in way like I don't think how to say it, but I think that often her comics might try and like complicate things where you could just make it this very simple story. Like her world is so fun and everything with Themyscira and like a ton of her villains, you know. It comes from the same place of like these really fun, pulpy comics of like the 40s, 50s as Batman and Superman. But I think
Mm.
modern Batman and Superman comics often will like keep things simple and have fun and expand on these concepts.
Mm.
Where Wonder Woman, I think they'll often try new things is the big thing. They'll like try to add pieces to her mythos. Like a big one is Wonder Woman, iconically, her mother like sculpted her from clay and like the Greek goddesses gave life to her, you know?
Yeah.
In like recent stories, it's revealed like, oh no, actually she has a father and her father is Zeus and everything. You know, they're trying to add these twists and like complicate the story. And I think um obviously this is comics and people are constantly retconning and adding to this to the continuity, but it would be like if in Batman they're like, oh, Bruce Wayne's dad has actually been alive this whole time, you know, you'd be like, well, you just kind of changed like a fundamental core aspect of the character for this kind of twist, and like maybe now you're going in this new direction, but where does it leave the character once you're done with that?
Mm.
Um, so something like that, where I think Wonder Woman, you you should look at like the core aspects of the character, look back to her history, what are the important pieces, and build on those things instead of trying to, I don't know, add your own new pieces that don't really blend well with the what the character is all about.
I think you're right because I don't know much about Wonder Woman than Wonder Woman herself. Like until you told me that's how Wonder Woman came to life, she was like built by clay by her mother. I
Mm,
literally never heard that until you told me just
exactly.
now.
But you know Superman's origin, you know? Who
Yeah.
doesn't? And that's what I'm talking about is, yeah, people, it should just be presented in this way that like people can take in and easily understand, you know?
hmm Like I feel like people overcomplicate everything. That's also why sometimes you watch shows or like read comics, you're like, huh? Because they're trying to smush like 500 things in like an hour, and I don't know what's
Right.
going on, you know?
Mm. Yeah, and I think there's totally room for like comics to tell complex stories, obviously, and those should definitely exist and are like their whole own thing to read. But I like just as much as I love reading like an Asterios Polyp, I love reading shonen manga, you know, which is just
Mhm.
simple like fun adventures with fun characters, you know, and you get lots of characters and great interactions. Um, Everything is like amped up to 11, so like emotions, you know,
Yeah.
stakes, thrills, everything. And it's like eating a big bag of like Doritos, you know, where you're like, yes, you know, I just want like hundreds of chapters of this, please, you know. um and I think, yeah, I don't know if like Wonder Woman has something like that, you know. You
No.
have like for Batman, you have your like dark, brooding, serious stories, and then you have like your simple, fun, uh yeah, like Batman goes and fights like the Riddler, and the Riddler has like whatever, he's flooded Gotham City, and you're like, okay, shit, you know. So yeah, I think there's room for both, and I think Wonder Woman should have that as well, and I think it'll appeal to a lot of new people.
What's your like favorite like fictional story of all time?
Oh man, that's so tough. Um, this is like such a hard answer, and it could change at any moment. But um,
For now, like
yeah, yeah, right in this moment, I might go with One Piece. I think One Piece is such an incredible story. It's one of those things where it's a story being told by like a single artist's mind. You know,
mhm.
obviously, their assistants and everything helping with the drawing, but Ichiro Oda is writing and drawing the story. Um, and yeah, I love the characters. I love the world. I love um, just how the adventure has continued and grown and changed and stayed relevant for decades.
Mhm.
And yeah, so in terms of just like one fictional story, that's it. And it's one that's ongoing, and I look forward to reading it to the end.
What exactly stands out about it, though for you?
I think uh probably the tone and presentation of it. I think it's something that you don't see a lot in other manga and anime. When I was young and I was looking at different ones, One Piece, like in the back of the Viz manga, they'd have a page that had the different characters from other series, you know, and all of them sort of had this consistent manga aesthetic, and
Mhm.
then Monkey D. Luffy stood out so hard on the cover, like the art style was completely different, completely wild, and I was like, what is this one? And I started reading and instantly got immersed. So I think uh probably the one thing that stood out would be like Eiichiro Oda's art
Mhm.
was a huge draw for me. It was so unique, so fun, and so uh yeah, just beautiful, stunning.
So like what kind of tone did it have?
Just that like lighthearted adventure with the potential in these moments to like get really serious and like get you really um engaged and rooting for the characters and wanting them to win and succeed and move on.
I feel like that One Piece is such a hard commitment. Isn't it there like a thousand episode or something for the anime at least? There's more.
It is.
Huh?
But I mean, if you're watching anime anyways, you know, you're gonna be watching that across multiple series. So yeah, it's just like, oh, if the story engages you, it'll be worth it, you know? So I think, and it's also a thing that you can start watching, give a chance, see if it's your thing, and then you can just keep watching it.
So is that your goal? Like that, do you want to be like Oda writing One Piece?
Yeah, I think creating something really um like this long ongoing title. It really builds. I mean, I think that's every. I don't want to say that, but that's definitely a goal of mine. I want to create something like that. I think there is this struggle right now with indie creators in Western comics is that it's hard to do that. People are looking like now more than ever. People are looking for things they know, even
Yeah.
within the movies that they already know. They're looking for more things they know.
I know.
What's the new Avengers movie being sold on? Is it being sold on like, oh, a cool new story? No, it's being sold on like X-Men actors from, you know, 20 years ago coming back. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, can we get something new here? So even within there. So now with indie comics, people are looking at, the comic racks. Oh, do I go with something that I know, like Spider-Man, or do I go with this thing that I've never heard of before, that like I don't recognize the writer, the artist, I don't recognize the title at all. So that's why a lot of indie comics, they are mini series. They'll be like 6 issues, and from there the creators will see, okay, people are engaging with this, and we can continue or not, you know. But uh, things take time to grow, and like uh, a lot of shows will get really good in their second season. But
Mhm.
if like every show is axed for after its first season for not finding its dedicated audience, then we'll never get to see any of these things reach their true potential. So I think, yeah, that's a huge struggle right now, and at least with Fourth Dimensional, it can be the thing that I continue to create myself, and um, kind of I have other projects that I work on at the same time that'll help me be able to continue to do it. um, but yeah, like from the first volume to the current one, the art, the tone, everything has like grown so much that it would be a shame if I stopped after the first volume and never made it to this point.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's going back to the point with Oda and One Piece. It's something definitely want to do, but it gets harder and harder as people have so many other ways to distract themselves and to entertain themselves.
Everyone's attention span is fried, man. Dead.
Exactly. Attention spans are fried. People aren't reading, but we continue to create and find the people who are engaging with the medium.
So do you prefer like I'm just curious because you seem to like really long form stories, like crazy long, like it takes 2 months for me to finish this type of long. So do you
Right.
prefer like TV shows or films?
Um, that's tough. I mean, it's tough to pick one. I think I really love, yeah, I what I do love about the quality of TV shows is that exactly as you said, you get so much more room to watch the characters grow and develop and everything. Um, So, yeah, I really love characters. That's like my biggest thing in all my own stories. It's always got to be characters first.
Yes.
In the stories, both I engage with and the ones I tell myself.
Mhm.
Um, and TV shows give the potential to like focus so much more on those characters and become like these complex character studies. Um, But I think a lot of shows now are just becoming really bloated, like 8 hour long movies where you aren't able to get into that. They're just sort of dragging things out to get 8 episodes. Um, but yeah, so if I had to pick one, probably I guess TV shows because you can touch up on those things I love most in stories.
I feel like sometimes TV shows, good TV shows, are like 20-hour like movies, but it's like it's not dragged out. It's just that
Mm,
they have a lot to say. Like I don't know if you've ever watched this podcast, but I think Tarantino is saying, I just saw a clip of him just saying this, like seven
right.
minutes, of him saying that a lot of TV shows engage you because they're sort of like soap operas. Like there's like a lot of height and low of emotions, but you
Yeah.
don't remember anything when you watch
Mm,
those.
right.
But with films, like all the like the first half of the film is kind of all leading up to this one scene or one moment that like stays with you for,
Right.
yeah, that's the thing you remember. Like someone tells you like what's a good example? Have you ever watched Terminator?
Yeah.
What's a scene that you remember from them there? I remember a lot of scenes.
Right.
Like, there's like the hand. from the Terminator. Like
Yeah.
he's like going after Sarah Connor and then she says something and she kills him. Or like
Hmm.
people remember the phrase like I'll be back or
Yeah.
hasta la vista, baby, you know? Like you
Hmm.
have these moments you remember. But um and good shows have that. Like have you ever watched The Boys?
Hmm.
You know the scene, the final scene. This is a bit of a spoiler, but in the final scene, I think in season one or se did you watch season one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. In the end of season one, I think Homelander's son, you see Homelander's son, right? He's just
Hmm.
standing there. And if you didn't have any context, you'd be like, okay. But
Yeah.
because you watch the whole thing, you find out how significant this scene is because he like spent the entire first season figuring out like why he was like created in the lab and like he thought that he couldn't have any kids. And then he finds out he actually has a kid and he goes looking for the kid. He thought that the mom was dead, but the mom was alive. So
Right.
it's like a whole like oh my God scene, right?
Hmm.
So I feel like that's what makes shows good. I forgot what I was going for. I kind of went on a tangent,
No, I
right?
like it. Yeah, definitely. Shows can just build up stakes over a longer amount of time. Um, yeah.
Do you have like any pet peeves when you like watch a show and you're like, why do they do this? I hate when this happens.
Hmm. That's tough off the top of my head. Pet peeve in shows.
I have an example.
Okay, yeah, maybe you start.
So I hate it when I watch like a movie and it's like a serious story, right?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like emotional things happening and they make some stupid joke and it
Oh yeah,
completely
for
pulls you
sure.
out of the story. I'm like, why do you have to make a joke here? It's so unnecessary.
Right, yeah. I think yeah, maybe some of those like millennial writing tropes. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, undercutting serious moments with a joke for sure is that's a good example. Yeah. Um, I think mine would just be yeah, sort of like dragging things out. Um, and I don't know. I think I'll hop onto yours. Let's say yeah,
Okay. What's an
those
example of like
millennial
a
writing bits.
what's an example of like a story that you thought was like being dragged for too long?
Um, I don't know, like Stranger Things. It's been like a decade or whatever since that show started, and it's been like 8 seasons. But it's been more than that. How when did that show start? It's been over 10 years.
Hmm
Um, I think that's the type of show where you watch the first season, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm good, I'm done.
hmm
You don't need to continue with this. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
No, I think I agree with you because I feel like season two is kind of like a copy and paste of season one to
Right.
an extent, right?
Hmm.
So if you're saying that, do you feel why don't you feel that One Piece isn't being dragged for like 1,000?
Because it's continuing to explore new things, you know. The it sets up this strong goal for our protagonist, and it's continuing along those things really naturally. And
Mm-hmm.
as you go along, the world grows, you know, and the characters' view of the world grows. So, you know, you make it into like the first few story arcs, and suddenly all these new players are introduced, you know, and you're like, oh shit, all these like there's new allies and new villains and everything, and all of them are engaging. All of them like have sort of like their conflicts, their interpersonal conflicts and everything, and because it's Oda's work, you're reading it and you're like, this is all great. I want to know more about those. And it naturally the story extends because you're fleshing out different characters and you're seeing these story arcs with different conflicts against different villains in different settings, and then they progress on their like the path that's been the same from the very beginning into this next area, and you're getting a new setting, new everything introduced, and there it's always like interesting, it's always engaging. And yeah, it doesn't there is a difference there as you're reading them and they introduce new characters, and it being in this sort of like natural way, you know. It's like it just makes sense. You're like, okay, yeah, if you're going to this new island, there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be new people there, new stakes, new conflicts, versus it feeling almost like soap opera in that way where like new characters being added because our characters, we don't have any more drama for them, so we need new characters to have drama
Mm.
and to have like conflict. Um, like where, in your classic soap operas, characters will be killed off or introduced to keep the show going because now there's a new character for your existing characters to interact with.
So you feel like they're like building upon and like expanding it, rather than like,
Exactly. They're building on a path that has been laid down from the very beginning, where I think a lot of shows, it's like, to what end is this? The first season of Stranger Things, it's to get this kid back, and they get him back. So I don't know what's the conflict in season 8 or whatever it is completely different than the first one. Whereas in One Piece, it's always been to find the One Piece.
I know they're like fighting Russians now, and I don't know what's
Yeah, I
going
don't, I
on.
don't even know.
So, do you have like an ending for your story as well? Did you write an outline for the whole thing?
Yeah, I think I learned real quick that for any story, if you're pitching it or just doing it yourself, you need to have an ending. If you don't have an ending for your story, you aren't ready to tell it. Um, and yeah, no matter how long the story is, even just having like that ending in mind is really good.
Mm.
So for me, I know what the ending is. I know where the characters will end up. I'm not 100% sure how they'll make it there,
Yeah.
but I know like vague sort of like I have like vague anchors along the way, and at like those allow me to sort of like navigate as I'm progressing. I
Mm.
can be like, okay, I might want to like add this or explore this character a little more, whatever. But I know ultimately I got to end up at this point, which will let me to eventually end up to that final point.
Okay, okay. So, do you feel like you consume similar media to the stuff you write?
Yeah, yeah. I think I pull a lot from the things that I love. So fourth dimensional, a huge part of it is my love for shonen manga. I think in terms of like tone and like the characters and everything, I really love um the range that shonen manga has, in
Mm.
that like you can have these really like lighthearted comedic moments, you can have really character-based moments, you can have really plot-based moments, and you can get serious with it too.
Yeah.
Uh, so I really love that stuff, and I love how much it still connects with people. Like young people are still reading manga like so much. They're like the primary people consuming it.
Yeah.
Where with some of your Western comics, it has a harder time connecting with a younger audience, which is the audience you want. You want people to grow up reading your stuff versus like an existing fan base that like you want to like grow. You want to grow, and you want your audience to grow, and you want new people to get into your stuff, and you want it to be accessible to them, which manga very much is.
Mm. Why do you think that?
Uh, I think a huge part of it is because it's usually a single creator. Sometimes it'll be a writer artist, but it's a consistent team. Whereas a lot of Western comics, especially like the big two, creative teams will switch up on the fly. Artists will change because the deadlines are crushing, and you need to like give artists a break. So they'll
Mm.
switch between story arcs and everything. Um, and because manga is continuing to come out, it's easier to get into it. If even like with stuff that came up before, if you're like, oh, I wanted to start One Piece, where do I start? You start with Volume One. With comics, people will try and like argue on it, saying, oh no, comics like Western comics aren't hard to get into, at least with the big two stuff. But the reality is, it is. Even if you pick up the latest uh volume of like Amazing Spider-Man #1, because they keep going back to #1,
Mm.
you'll still be like, okay, I kind of know Spider-Man and Mary Jane and all these things, but you're like, where's Mary Jane? Who's this? What is this? Oh, he's like friends with Norman Osborn right now. These things where like it's harder to get into, and it's much more overwhelming. I think with the indie comics, it's great. Indie comics, you go there and you pick up issue one of like this new series, and you can start from there, and you're gonna learn everything you need to go. You don't have any pre-existing uh ideas that will like confuse you when you start reading it. But there, it's just like, I think a lot of comics are struggling to connect with like a younger, excited audience.
You know what? You're so right. Because I tried to read Batman, and that was like the most frustrating process ever, and I just gave
Right.
up. I was like,
Mm,
you know what? I don't know which one I'm supposed to start with,
right.
and I'm gonna try. But you know which one's quite easy to start?
Mm.
I feel like Image comics are easy to start.
There you go. Yeah, that's the like Image Comics is indie books, you know? So it's like it's creative teams, so a consistent creative team telling their story. You can get into them so easy and there's so much range. I think like um Image Comics, it's like the best comics coming out right now because you get like stories for everybody. I truly think like we're at like this golden age of comics where there's never been a better pool of stories for people to pull from, to read from.
Mm.
There's comics for everybody. I say with 100% confidence, anyone can find a comic that really speaks to them. Um, I think it's silly to say, "Oh, I don't really like comics." It'd be the same thing like I don't really like movies, which some people will say. Some people
Yeah.
will say, "I don't like movies." People, their attention spans are too fried for movies now.
Oh my God. I tried to watch an old movie, and you know the credits scene, the opening credits scene?
Oh yeah,
I can't believe I was so disappointed in myself because like I can't believe I'm getting bored. I'm like watching
right,
Hateful Eight. It's like a snow scene. It's like made by Tarantino, blah blah blah. I'm like skip it and get to the story right now, you know?
right. Yeah, sometimes I feel guilty of it myself, where I'm just like, "Damn, my attention span is I'm losing it. I'm losing it." It,
Hmm.
it I mean, yeah, you don't want to be a hypocrite. I feel like all of us were experiencing that. But it makes it even better to talk about because, you know, at least we can be self-aware and try and work on that.
Do you feel like social media is more of a plus or a negative for our generation?
I mean, for me as a creative and trying to get out there, it's this required thing. I think some people like I think it's beautiful when people are able to like remove themselves from social media when creators are.
Yeah.
Um, like a Trad Moore, you know, he's just not on social media. He decided, oh yeah, this is like really bad for us, and got off of it. And but he's Trad Moore, so people will read his new books and know of him and everything.
Yeah.
But if you're sort of like a relatively unknown artist, I mean, good luck. I wish I could, you know. Um, but by and large, social media is terrible for us. It's a plague on society. It's horrible. Uh, everyone's like so much worse to each other. Everyone's pissed off. You know, I could get up on a soapbox and say it, but yeah, no, I think everyone's aware. Social media sucks.
Like there's like a plus and a negative. Like everybody can see you. You have a chance to like show yourself off. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I'm like scrolling through TikTok and I
Yeah.
like I'm like, ah, it's been 5 hours. What have I been doing with my life?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
And people become like way more harsher. And you know how you said like when the first season of like a show fails, they can never get into the nitty-gritty into like a better season two? It's
Mm-hmm.
even worse now, man, because
Yeah.
no one can get through the first 3 seconds of a show if they're bored.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the thing. It is it's like drugs. It's they found like short form content. They found it. You know, these companies have finally found it for so long. You know, when I was younger,
Mhm.
like YouTube, for example, was constantly experimenting with how do we increase viewer retention. So at points they thought like, oh, long form videos. You know, we'll reward create like YouTubers who are making longer videos because people will watch them for longer. You know,
Yeah.
with TikTok, they found out all these companies saw that and found out, oh no, the trick is to go shorter, shorter and shorter. You know, if people aren't getting something in 3 seconds, they'll scroll to the next one. Less than it's going to keep getting shorter. Um, yeah, I have friends who I'm trying to watch a movie with them, and they need to be on their phone, like actually playing phone games to watch a movie. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is bad. This is like how quickly it happened too. Like TikTok, it being really popular, isn't that like wasn't that long ago? It was just a few years.
Mhm.
And how much it's like affected people so seriously. So yeah, it's not good. It's bad for our brains. It's really terrible.
Especially with like COVID, I feel like everybody really got glued onto their
Yeah.
phone.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, the other bit is like that's how people are getting their entertainment now, They just go and like they just get like massive like dopamine hits when they scroll and scroll and scroll and find a video for 10 seconds like, "Oh yeah, my brain feels is filled with happy juice." And that's all they need. I can do that for several hours, but no, I can't commit to like a 45-minute episode of a show, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the other thing with comics, with movies, with TV, with the entertainment industry, like completely, not just comics. People are struggling to make new things made because people can now like they don't need to go see a movie in the theaters. They can just lie on their bed and scroll on their phone, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And like maybe conceptually you're like, oh, I would rather watch a movie or whatever. But like functionally, which one can you more easily sit and do for hours, you know? Um, so that's why like we were saying earlier, like why movies now they have to find like oh things people know because those are the things that people will go to movies for, It's not just like the stories and everything. It's harder and harder to make new things, and get
Mm-hmm.
people to look at those new things.
That's
But,
why there's so many
like
theories.
yeah, we just gotta continue doing it, and yeah, people are still looking for stories and want to experience new worlds and new characters and everything. So there's absolutely a place for this that hasn't gone away at all. Um, it's just like the latest sort of hurdle. There's always been hurdles, and there'll continue to be hurdles to like get people engaging with your work. So you just can't let it deter you. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, you know. Do you try to like put a hook in your story ever?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you got to be able to break
Capture
your story
attention.
down, break your story down to
Mm-hmm.
a hook. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're quickly trying to like sell someone on the idea of your story, you can like if you try and get into like all like the complex things and like oh this character's like this, that character's like that, their eyes are gonna like glaze, they're gonna
Yeah.
glaze over. Uh, if you have like the elevator pitch, like that one
Yeah.
sentence hook, then people will like be more willing. Like it either engages them or it doesn't. And at that point, they can quickly decide, okay, this is something I want to like take a closer look at, or no, this isn't for me.
So what's your elevator pitch for fourth dimensional?
I say fourth dimensional. It's like this urban sci-fi adventure series. It's about an extra-dimensional fugitive who's escaped to Earth, met this girl, and now it's up to the two of them to try and unite all these other fugitives against the forces that are after them.
Ooh, that's really good. That was really good. I can tell you did it like 100 times.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because you just have to like you have to find that perfect way of saying it. I think
What
a
is
thing a lot of people do for their pitches as well is
it?
they'll say, "Oh, this story is like A meets B."
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like Mad Max meets Jaws. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would sound interesting. Mad Max meet Jaws instead of
There you
trucks. They're
go.
like,
Yeah. And now you're like, "Oh, I know Mad Max. I know Jaws." It's one that I think is a little cheaper.
mm,
Uh it's 100% valid though because, if your story is like those two things, then people who know those two things will be like, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. How does that work? You know?
mm-hmm.
So it's 100% like it's a very effective way to like pitch your story. But for me personally, I'm like, we're creating new things here. I want to present it as a new thing. I don't want to present it as these two things you've seen before.
I agree with you. When you write your stories, do you feel like you're writing it for the audience or for yourself?
Um, I think I'm just writing it to be good. I don't know. I guess for myself then, but I'm like just writing the script and yeah, I mean I have to like it.
Hmm.
Um I do think about like I think like people will say, "Oh, if you create a thing and nobody likes it, then at the very least like you enjoyed it and that's great and everything." And I think that's like it's a healthy mentality to have, but it's also
Yeah.
one where it's like, well, you don't want to like pat yourself on the back if you created this thing and nobody likes it because your goal was for people to like it. You know,
Yeah.
what do you like? Yeah, you can like pat yourself on the back all day, but I don't know. You want people to like it. So, um, I think the thing I have in my head is like I want to create a comic that I would read. You know, if it, even if it wasn't like created by me. You know,
Yeah.
something that like, oh, me as a teenager would pick this up and like be like, oh, you know, wow,
Yeah.
I want to read this. So yeah, just comes down to like as I'm writing, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, this is good.
That's
So I
so
am
funny.
like I'm writing for people like me, I guess, people who would like similar stories to me, you know, going off my own taste and everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, you want it to be something that people will like.
I feel like Stan Lee said something similar. I think he said that if you think it's a good idea, someone else would also think it's a good idea. I think something
Yeah,
like that.
that's the hope. Yeah.
I mean, you end up like targeting like the people who write like your stories because are like sim not similar people, but it's like a specific group of people all the time, I feel like. Like every
Hmm.
story, even the famous ones. Like Spider-Man, like it's kids, teenagers who relate to Spider-Man, and there's just insane amount of them, and they bring their parents along, and that's why so many people watch the movies, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Who do you think like your audience is?
I think it's from everything I've observed. Wow. I think it's people similar to me, just kind of like people uh in their younger 20s and everything. I anytime like you have there's like a teenager or something coming up and checking my stuff and they'll buy it or anything. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's such a win because um you want to like tap into that like younger audience and everything. Like I'd say the book is like teen rated
Mm,
in that oh, it can like swing a little younger and swing a little older. I think a lot of things are made teen rated, you know, like that PG-13 level because of that. Because
yeah.
like, you know, a family could bring their kid to see a Marvel movie, even though they might have to say like shit in it. Or, you know, you get like 50-year-old adults coming and still watching the new Spider-Man movie. Um, so yeah, I think oh yeah, the point I had with like kind of like teens and stuff reading it is it's like, oh, stuff is expensive. People don't have money. So if someone is if like a teenager is willing to spend money on this thing you created, you're like, okay, yeah, it's a win because adults have like income. So
Yeah.
they can more reasonably spend money on stuff. So yeah, I think people around my age, maybe a little older, maybe a little
Hmm.
younger. Yeah.
It's like Pixar movies. Like you watch it and it's targeted towards children, but they have like adult themes in it, and then you see like the
Hmm.
parents cry while they're watching Monster Inc. or something,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You want to create something that's like has this wide appeal, but you got to have kind of like this idea of a target audience in your mind. I think the funniest bit for me is when I'm actually at a convention
Hmm.
selling my book, and I'm able to kind of like sounds bad to say, but like profile people, you know, as because like you have so many people walking by and looking at stuff, um, and when you see someone looking at your thing and you like are like, oh yeah, you can like check it out or whatever, you get an idea of like, oh, who is more likely to actually like be interested, you know? So yeah,
Do you have any like fan interactions that like, stuck with you during those conventions?
yeah. I've had several. I think one of the first conventions I did, it was in Kelowna.
Mm.
Um, there was a young girl and her dad, and she had like her sketchbook with her, and she was this like incredible artist, you know, and like she had like sketchbooks filled with comics. I'm like, and the dad was like asking questions and everything, like, oh, you know, what do you think? Should like I put her in like lessons and all this stuff? I'm like, your kid is a prodigy. Like I hope that girl is like doing amazing, like making some awesome comics because she'd create like filled sketchbooks, like 5 sketchbooks filled with comics and characters and stories and everything. So that was just
Mm.
really cool to see, like and like being able to like share my experience with them
Mm.
in the hopes like, oh yeah, like the next generation can continue here. because I think when I was young, and going to like VanCath and talking to people, it was so valuable for me to have those experiences that like anytime I'm able to like give any advice that I might have to someone who's looking to get into like art making and storytelling and everything, it's always like valuable to me.
So what would
Um
that one advice be?
uh Normally I it's nice to see where the person's work is at to give them advice that like will be most relevant.
Hmm.
The other bit I always like preface is this is what I learned and what has worked for me, but like feel free to like uh to not take it, if it doesn't work for you.
Hmm.
So uh I usually start with like simple things like just drawing every day. You want to build those drawing muscles. When I started, I couldn't imagine sitting and drawing for like 8 hours. It was crazy to me. When I was a
Hmm.
kid, I drew in math class, so I didn't have to pay attention, and it looked like I was doing work. You know, um, but you slowly start building those drawing chops up, and like that like ability to kind of sit there and focus on this. Um, so that's super helpful. I think the other bit is just uh starting now, like don't wait to get started. It's like whatever thing you want to do is get started with it and you'll improve as you go along. I normally say start start now, but start on a smaller scale. Don't start with like your 200-page magnum opus. Start with like a one-page comic. Do a bunch of those because if you do one 200-page comic, at the end of that, you've told one story. You've done the writing, drawing, that whole process one time, versus if you do 200 one-page comics, at the end of that, you've told 200 stories. You've written and drawn, done that entire creative process 200 times. So you'll improve at a much quicker rate doing everything uh, repeatedly. So
Hmm.
do some one-page comics, then some 3 pages, some 7 pages, move up and up to like that 20-page comic, and then from there you'll be able to do those longer form stories. Um, and the last bit, this one is one of those things where it's like take as you find relevant, but uh, maybe don't start with like your dream story, because you only get to do that once. If you if you start with that thing that you always want to tell, it's so important to you to tell. Um, when you're at the very beginning of your journey, then it might not end up to the level you want it to be, to the level you might have envisioned. So if
Hmm.
you kind of, yeah, save that magnum opus or whatever for later. Like most people who have created stories that you love, it wasn't their first thing. Like One Piece wasn't Eiichiro Oda's first manga. Dragon Ball wasn't Akira Toriyama's. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure wasn't Rocky's.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
So little steps to something. Oh, I just learned something big.
Hmm.
What do
Yeah.
you think like holds people back from doing the stuff they want to do? Like the biggest thing that holds them back?
I mean, there's so many different reasons. One thing is just like kind of having like life can get in the way. It's a privilege to be able to devote your time to something like this, like something creative. Uh, the other thing is, people. For me, it was that like self-doubt. It was like, oh, I'm not good enough to do this. Um, so yeah, I think there's so many things, time, self-doubt, whatever. Uh, and it is like, yeah, it's a struggle for every person to
Mhm.
work through whatever that is to begin.
Guys, it's better to f actually do what you want to do than be a perfectionist and never do it, I
Oh
think.
yeah, that was another thing. It's a lesson from Jake Parker where it's
Mm,
finished, not perfect. It's better to like have something done than to try and sit on it forever. You'll never get anything done that way.
exactly. I think also James Cameron said something similar. He said, strive for greatness, not perfection. I think that's what he said.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, the
Yeah.
greatness is like working on comics and improving, but actually doing the comics, right?
Hmm.
And then doing the something you love. And then the perfection would be like, oh, I'm not good enough. I have to be better. I have to be better. And then you never do it.
Right. There you
Yeah. So, Siraji,
go.
where can our awesome, cool listeners find your work?
So I'm on all like the social medias at either Seraji or Seraji Art. Um, and you can find my comics online. Fourth Dimensional is available on the Cosmic Line Productions website. So I have a direct link to it on my social media, so you can find it through there. Um, Other than that, you can read my episodes of Nothing But Nightwing. I did episodes 8 and 9. You can read it for free on the DC Universe Infinite app. And yeah, those are where you can find my work out there right now.
And you can probably like find in the description because I probably put it in there too.
True. Yes, it's going to be in the description. A link to hopefully both those. And yeah, check it out. I think Fourth Dimensional. Right now, I have Summer Fun, which is the entire first story arc of the series, over 120 pages. Um, that is, yeah, the first collected edition. And then I'm working on Seal Your Heart, which is the second story arc. Right now, I have part one and part two. I'm working on part three. And once that is out, that will be the second story arc completed. And the way I have Fourth Dimensional set up, because of like, some of the stuff we were talking about,
Mm.
making things accessible, every story arc in Fourth Dimensional is a new jumping on point. And I set it up so people can get into it easily and be caught up and experience the newest bits of the story. So either Seal Your Heart or Summer Fun are equally as valid a place to begin the story. So you can start with either. And yeah,
That's so smart.
thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Podcast for Fun. Thank you so much, Siraji, for joining us and sharing your incredible, smart, creative insights.
All right, thank you for having me. It was really nice talking.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to smash that like button, and subscribe and share it with fellow storytelling enthusiasts. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to explore, you can drop them in the comments or connect with me on any of my social medias at Podcast for Fun. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and we'll see you on the next episode of Podcast for Fun.